Buenas noches, y'all. My name is Stephanie Urbina Jones, and I am Urbina Jones, and I'm the co-founder of Freedom Folk and Soul. And I'm so honored and happy to see all of y'all online tonight. We're here to share a little bit about the magic and of the Toltec medicine wheel of transformation, this map of transformation. Um, and before we get started, we want to invite Jeremy to kind of bring us in with prayer.
Well, it's just everybody taking a few deep breaths and grounding. It's really important, I think, anytime that we come into circle like this, and I know this is an informational call, but why not bring the sacred, right? Why not bring the sacred? So I'm going to invite each of you to just take a big deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And if you feel safe enough and aren't in the car or anything, just allowing your eyes to close. And Steph is lighting some smudge here. And that's going to go through the amazing connection that we all have from all over the world here in the country. And taking another big, deep breath. Imagine that smudge, that smoke is just kind of bathing you, allowing all of the details and the rushing and the what our life takes, the to-do lists and all those things to just kind of settle off, allowing ourselves to just be present for this next 45 minutes to an hour. Taking another deep breath, bringing our attention into our body, into our heart and our solar plexus. And when we bring our attention into the body, we begin to be present and perceive this moment. So just noticing, being the witness, how your body's feeling, the sounds, the smells, right? The stories in our head. Just being the witness of this moment. Feeling that breath going into our lungs and the surrender that happens as we exhale. So each of us in our own way, however you do it, I'm going to invite you to call in your guides, helpers, spirit keepers, angels, ancestors, those known and unknown, the unseen beings to come and join us and help us to see clearly, to know in our hearts what's right for us as we listen in tonight and take some medicine in. Taking another deep breath. Gently just allowing yourselves to come back into this space, into this moment.
Hello, y'all. It's wonderful to see so many of you who we know and some of you who we don't know. Really want to share from our hearts the power of the Toltec medicine wheel of transformation. Want to share just a little bit about me. I'm originally from Texas, the hill country of Texas. And while my parents did the best they could, by the time I got to be a grown adult with a dream moving to Nashville, Tennessee, I just couldn't quite live the dreams or the life that I was longing for. I didn't know how to love. I didn't know how to receive love. I didn't know how to give love in many ways. And I just, in some ways, was crippled on the inside from things that had happened in my life earlier. And of course, my lineage. We believe that we're carrying ancestral, wounding and gifts, 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. And I did what, I tried to get better. I did 15 years of traditional counseling, went to all kinds of religious, churches and things. I just wanted to be well. I wanted to know love. And by the end of that 15 years, I could really see my wounding and what had happened. And I had compassion, but I couldn't change it. And when I went through the great heartbreak of a divorce, it just kind of broke my heart and brought me to my knees. And in this place of surrender, I found myself at this gathering outside of Nashville. And it was a gathering of Toltec teachers. And they were doing all kinds of ceremonies, and breath work, fire walk, sweat lodges. And for the first time in one weekend, I was brought into my body where I was holding all those stories and those agreements and those wounds and those traumas and those sacred longings. And within one weekend of this experiential healing and ceremonies, initiations, I could begin to feel the mortar, the glue of those things that were holding those stories and those traumas in place start to come undone. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but something is changing. And, long story short, I met Jeremy Pager in that medicine wheel ceremony. And we ended up soon after becoming engaged, and we're married in a medicine wheel.
Not too soon.
Not too soon after. And
there was a year or two in there.
And became like, had this voracious appetite for healing, and it was happening. And over time, one of the things, and Jeremy will share his path, that we came to understand was that we need sacred witnesses. We need community. We need a map to guide our souls so that we can surrender into and heal these things that happened to us early on in our life. And so we call this the medicine wheel of transformation. And within your life story, within you is the medicine. So this intentional map of transformation was born to lead and guide your soul, which, by the way, knows how to heal. You are the power person. You are the medicine. We guide you through this intentional transformational journey of initiations to bring home, make peace with, reveal, heal, transform, and then empower those things that hurt us the most that we may not even be aware of. And my story is, there was one year when I was 4 years old that my grandfather, he was my person, he died. And I wanted to die with him. That's how much I loved him. Can you imagine a little kid? Like, I want to die too, right? I made an agreement at 4 years old that I wanted to die. And I lived with the desire to die for 40 years. In that same year, my father was kept from me when my parents were divorced, and I never felt wanted. So I made this giant agreement at 4 years old that I would not be loved, that I was unworthy of love. And it was because it was such a powerful time as a little kid. It was just like, this became my filter for everything in my life. I created every situation unknowingly to be abandoned, to be rejected. Ultimately, now I know I was calling for love, calling to reconnect with that moment and to transform it. And that's what we've done in the medicine wheel. That's what I've done over and over again. The teaching is the healing. Within us is the medicine. And we are honored that this divine map has been given to us, and to be guides, to safely walk with you as you awaken to what is ready to be seen, heard, held, and transformed. We're not going to leave anything behind. We're just going to bring you forward. You are going to bring you forward on this journey to wholeness. I'm honored to say that we've been doing this for 4 years this year, and every single time it has never not worked, because when we put our attention, our love, when we surrender into that love, when we ask, when we pray, when we go into an initiation, inevitably that part of ourself is ready to awaken and come forward, and we become fully actualized adults that are wise and compassionate. And also, we now have that childlike wonder that we had to leave behind so long ago. So that is my experience of the medicine wheel. And it is one of my greatest honors and joys to be a witness, to be a safe witness, and to walk with people on this journey. So.
Okay, so I'm Jeremy Pager. I am the other half of and founder of Freedom Folk and Soul. And a little bit of my story, and my story is, similar to many. And, for the last 21 years, 22 years, I have been on this path of the healing arts transformation. I worked in mental health, drug addiction treatment for 15 years as a spiritual counselor, and have been introduced really early on in my own process to the Toltec work as presented through Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the Four Agreements. Many of you are familiar with that. And really, it just spoke to me. It made sense. And so backing up a little bit, I grew up in Massachusetts in an Italian family. Parents were divorced really early on. My mom, to this day, isn't really capable of taking care of herself. And so I made an agreement really early on that it was my job to take care of my mother. And so levels of enmeshment happened there. And then my dad was an overbearing Italian that quite resembles Tony Soprano, if anybody's seen The Sopranos. I feel like my life was a Sopranos episode, minus all the killing that happened in that. But that same mannerism, that same kind of Italian know-it-all, overpowering. And so, I couldn't really run. I couldn't freeze because we had all these family businesses and I was expected to work, and what I learned to do really early on is fawn. I learned to be exactly what the environment needed of me. And fast forward up until, really the catalyst of creating the Toltec medicine wheel of transformation was me recognizing that I was repeating this pattern even after 20, at that point, 17 years of doing this deep work. I noticed an even deeper pattern of becoming whatever that environment wanted me to be, or whoever that person wanted me to be. And so, the medicine wheel, Toltec medicine wheel transformation came about 5 years ago as us, me and Steph, both as an organization, as individuals, really stepping into our sovereignty and owning our own experience. And so, like Steph said, I've all these ceremonies, sweat lodges, fire walking. I've taken so many trainings, and I like to laugh because I have a whole drawer full of certificates, and I promise you, I don't remember 10% of it. What I remember is the places in which I've done my own work, I've done my transformation, I've done my healing, right? And so that isn't information, that's experience, that's embodied work. And so we came together and we're like, we wanted to create a map of transformation that really brought in the experiential, that got us into our bodies, that created actual change, deep rooted change. Yes, we can come to this work, and there's lots of work out there, and I'm not judging anything, even the Toltec work. I created a bunch of spiritual bypass with the Toltec work because I was afraid to get into my body. I was introduced, to different modalities and that were really heady, right? And I love that. Like, give me a modality that I don't have to feel, right? I'm a recovering addict. The part of my story is, when I was 23, I had, you know, everything that you're supposed to have in life. I had a business, I had a big bank account, I had my own house, I had the brand new truck, the jet skis, the trophy, partner, all that stuff, and a $500 a day drug habit because I was not living authentically. I was not living myself, and I did not want to feel, the pain or the lack of sovereignty that my life was. And there's a lot of reasons addiction works. I mean, that's why, a lot of these patterns that we all kind of show up to at this point in our life, and again, people come to this work two reasons. Either they're in crisis or they're like, yeah, my life's okay, but I believe it could be better. There's something better, there's something bigger. And those are two kind of entry points, right? And it's really our soul kind of knocking, going, you know what? I don't quite believe, those kind of negative, limiting beliefs. And so that's why we show up here. That's why we, come to this work. And so, I had that $500 day habit, and I showed up at this place called the Ranch. And it just happened to be a magic moment time where all of Miguel's original apprentices were teaching Native American stuff. And I just plugged into it. And it was so weird. It was so bizarre. Like I said, I mean, I literally in, northern Massachusetts Italian family, right? Like my first experience of this work was a sweat lodge, and 12 muddy men came out and were like, come on in. I went, oh shit. Like, where did I just end up? But I was willing, and I surrendered into the process. And look, my life has become it. It has become it. And like Steph said, there's nothing better than watching people step into their transformation. And so, the medicine wheel is that culmination of all of those years of teaching, mine and Steph's, really moving us into the body. It's easy to get some freedom and some transformation from the heady kind of work, and it's real, and all of that is important. But if those core underlying agreements, I'm betrayable, I'm not lovable, we don't, can't let love in, like that is what ultimately is going to grab a hold of intent, right? Intent is working all the time, right? We talk about manifesting stuff. Well, we are always constantly manifesting. We have never not been manifesting, right? And when those core agreements are I'm betrayable, I'm not good enough, well, that's intent is grabbing that. And so it's bringing more and more, situations and mirrors into our life that are reinforcing that belief. And so the medicine wheel is really about taking all of that to task and looking at it and ultimately dream mastery of intent, bringing forth the life that we want. Truth is, all of us, everybody, I ask what you want. People say money. No, you don't want money. You want more safety, more freedom, more connection, more love, more joy, period. That is what everybody wants, right? And so how do we get that? Well, we kind of have to go into the desert, right? We have to go into the dark. And I don't know, after 21 years and being in mental health, there's no other way but through it, into it and through it. We can bypass it, but guess what? It's the gift that keeps on giving, right? keep knocking. And so, you know, there's maps out there, and I'm not saying our map is the map, but what came through me and Steph in that divine moment, and it's evolved past who we are. You know, I mean, we've sat back, you know, 4 years later and watched what this medicine wheel does, and it's just like, whoa, this, you know, not to like, you know, we brought our you know, experience and our expertise, but it really is about finding your own medicine man, your own medicine woman. Because if somebody says they're healing you or they're your healer, run, because we always heal ourselves. We're the only ones that can do that. And so it really is on multiple levels about empowering you to step into your own medicine, as well as it's a training. But you know, we'll talk about that later. But the thing about training is the best training you can do is doing your own work, right? You know, and then you get to, we say our wounds become our medicine, right? And those wounds become our medicine to bring to the world. Um, and there's quite a few of you on here that have done the medicine wheel or have done stuff with us. And so, you know, it's just a potent path, you know, and it's beyond Steph and I, for sure. And yes, we hold that structure, we hold that container. You know, I would say the thing that we do the best, if I was to cut, is create a safe container for you to be vulnerable, to have the space that you need to do your healing. And you know, we're going to go through the medicine wheel a little bit here, but and there's a few different ways in which we do the medicine wheel, and we'll talk about that. But it is, as Freedom Folk and Soul, if we were to, you know, for lack of a better word, and I use this lightly, had a dogma, this is our dogma, right? This is our core program. It's the core program with all of our trainings, and it's the core program with personal transformation. And hands down, 80% of being a good teacher, or you know, presenting in the world, or what, is about doing our own work, doing our own work. So thank y'all.
So what is the Toltec medicine wheel of transformation? One of the things, you know, if you're a Toltec or you've read the Four Agreements, you hear this over and over again. We are dreaming all the time. We are creating, whether we're conscious of it or not, we are creating whatever is our mirror reflection that we like or don't like is coming from inside our filter from inside, right? So if I'm continuing, like for me, I continued to, you know, have situations where I felt betrayed or abandoned. Finally, when I got to this work, it's like I've got to stalk that agreement, that story that I was dreaming into my life. It was calling me, it was coming for me to go stalk it, to feel it, to honor it, and then to release that pain that then becomes this wisdom. And that's why you hear us say those wounds that we had become our wisdom. So the medicine wheel of transformation takes you consciously back through the medicine wheel of your life, ages and stages, which I'm about to go through. So you can just begin to feel into it. And as you are guided through these ceremonies, parts of your stuff that you didn't even realize where you had an issue with will come up, like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how rejected I have felt my whole life and how I've been playing that out, right? And right behind that is the transformation, is the alchemy, is how you become like empowered by that. I felt like a motherless child. I never felt mothered. I never felt wanted. Guess what? I am who you want to mother you. I'm that person because I know that sacred ache and longing. I can feel it in you. I know how to hold you while that healing comes through you, you know, and then becomes you. So I'm going to start with the Toltec medicine wheel of transformation. I'm sure all of you probably know there's this ancient symbol, a medicine wheel. It's a circle. And in the middle of that circle is a cross. This is an ancient symbol used all around the world. Different cultures have different ways of going on this cycle of life. And we intuited and dreamt into what was the way that the soul would go through, be called through, and be delivered into transformation, into dream mastery. So we weren't getting hooked up by those old agreements. So we start the Toltec medicine wheel at the crossroad, right in the middle. We stand at that crossroad, and our first initiation is we stand and we say, I'm ready to change. Something is ready to shift. I am willing. I am the medicine man or woman of my life. I'm going to take full responsibility of everything that has gone down, that happened to me and through my lineage. Bring it on. And we're at that crossroad. And right from that crossroad, we go into the first initiation, which is the West. The West is the place, speaking in the native tongue, is a place of the black bear. This amazing black bear will go, you guys, and hunt the root that it needs in the forest for its own healing, right? So we are that black bear. We are that medicine. We are hunting, we are stalking and longing for that medicine. This is a place of our adulthood. This is a place of introspection. And this is a place where, again, right behind that standing up and claiming, putting a stake in the ground, right behind that, we surrender into the water. Great mystery, carry me, help me.
Yeah, I mean, a simple, like I have a simpler way to talk about the wheel. And of course, what we will do is each of these, you know, depending on how you do, it has its own, rituals and things. And a medicine wheel is the symbol. And to me, there's really no beginning and no end to a wheel, but we have to start somewhere, right? And we have to end somewhere. And so this is, different parts of us are moving around the wheel at different times. I feel like, and you'll hear this in a minute when we get to the South, like this last 4 years have been a big sacred rebel, kind of years for us, and so there's these bigger parts, smaller parts. We go through the wheel many times. But simply, the West is what's not working. I'm no longer willing to be in denial about what's not working. What's not working? We don't have to do anything about it. We don't have to know where it comes from yet. We just have to say, this is the reality. I'm no longer willing to be in ... And then we move.
And from the West, we move then to the North. This is we call this the origin, because it's our family origin, 7 generations back. Like I said, we believe that our ancestors, both their gifts, their burdens, their traumas, we are carrying that. Epigenetics proves that in our DNA. And they want it back. They want us to release that trauma we've been carrying in our lineage. So we come to the North, to this place of the origin, and we ask to know it, see it, feel it. And we also call on our family of origin that we grew up in. What was the mantra of living in your house? Was there joy? Was there restriction? Was there fear? Was there rage? Was there, you're not good enough? What was the energy that you were basically conditioned by every day for however many years that you were there? We really, really allow ourselves to feel into that origin piece. What made us? What are those roots?
Yeah, the West, what's not working, right? And then we move to the North. Where did it come from? Where did we, how did these different ways in which we've learned to stay safe, these different agreements, these different beliefs, where did they come from? Where did it come from?
And from the north, we move to the great below. We call this shadow and grace. Because almost always, y'all, when we turn up that knob of the volume of our family of origin and our ancestors, and we are feeling, remembering, recalling everything that happened in that lineage, it can break our hearts. And right when we feel that heartbreak, we also begin to be able to see all the coping mechanisms that we created brilliantly when we were children to keep ourselves safe. I mean, my imagination saved my life. So did music. And then came sex, drugs, rock and roll, food, fuck you, and everything else that pushed everything I longed for away, right? This is my shadow. I have hurt people I love from my shadow. And so those things are starting to get revealed. And just as they're getting revealed, and you think, like, oh my gosh, who am I? What did I do? What have I lost all this time? All these tapes start to be called up. You turn that over, your shadow, that pain, your lineage, to the great mother that can hold it all. Shadow and grace. We hand it over to the great mother, and lay it in the ground and honor it, and honor who we were doing our best. Shadow and grace.
Yeah. Again, what's not working? Where did it come from? What did we develop? How did we survive what happened? How did we cope? As well as shadow pieces, like what parts of those beautiful parts of ourselves did we stick away in the shadow because it hurt? Maybe we were singing and somebody said something and we've never sung again, or maybe we used to be playful and funny, and something happened and we shut that part away. So in this shadow and grace, we're bringing forth our shadow pieces. We're finding these parts of us that have been hidden away. And how have we survived? Yeah, for sure.
And so, as you can imagine, through each one of these initiations, we're doing ceremony and initiations. Because I can tell you, when that rises up, that shame, that pain, that lineage, we have to surrender that. And through ceremony, we let those parts of ourselves die. And from that place of shadow and grace, being held in the grace of the Great Mother, we move to the East. And in this initiation, the East, we are reborn. We have found grace and compassion and understanding for ourselves, for our parents, for our lineage, and we can be reborn into our youth, little babies, with new vision of life, new hope, new dreams. Our imaginations are not clogged up with, who do you think you are? It's like, you are amazing. You are precious. Come on through, and we get to reinitiate our childhood and live that childlike wonder through these experiences in the East.
Yeah, I mean, it's like as we move through each of the directions, it's kind of multifaceted, because the other thing that we're doing in this is finding that innocence, finding that young part of ourselves, our inner children. We're also like learning to identify, like, what am I actually feeling? What did I actually need when these things happened? And so we're becoming and learning how to be that ideal loving parent for ourselves. If some of you are familiar with ACA work, it's like, we're working very much with those younger parts of ourselves and reclaiming like our innocence, our joy, our playfulness.
And from the East of our childhood, when we're feeling alive and playful and joyful, we move into the South, which we call sacred revel. This is our adolescence, our young adulthood. This is a place that's so important for us to have had a freedom to become all that what we want, what we don't want, who we like, what we want to eat, our sexuality, our longing, our I want, I don't want. Like it's really our voice. And for many of us, this is another place where we got shut down by our culture, by our family. Don't be sexual. Don't have those longings. Don't use your voice, and so most of us wanted to just be loved. And so we stuffed that sovereignty, that power that we are away. So we, through initiation, awaken and step into that power using our voice.
Yeah. So many of us, out of a desire, she was saying, to be loved, kind of acquiesced, right? Or a desire to feel safe. We acquiesced. We weren't necessarily like me. I became, my father, I became the business, I became whatever organization, and I kind of didn't honor my true self. And this is, it's passion, it's fire, it's adolescence. It's when we're figuring out who we are, right? And coming through that. And so we're reinitiating that, like, well, who am I? Who do I want to be? And is it okay to change my mind? In the last book I wrote at the end, I'm like, what's your favorite color today? What's your favorite food today? I specifically put that because we also have learned really well to put ourselves in boxes, in a lot of ways. And so it's about breaking through some of that, redefining, you know.
And you can't imagine, you guys, as you go through these initiations, these parts of ourselves are awakened and come forward and come into wholeness. And so we move from the south into the center of the wheel. We call this sacred union, sacred marriage. This is the within. This is where you just imagine yourself standing in the center of that medicine wheel and looking back with such gratitude, humility, and respect for yourself, for taking responsibility and loving yourself, to own every part of yourself, to look back at every part where you've been and to say, I love you. I accept you. I honor you. Way to go, Stephanie. I understand why you slept around for 10 years. Congratulations. I honor you for acting out your sacred longing. Do you feel that? Like the compassion I feel for myself, the respect. That was the best I could do. Now I own that, right? And so all of those things, we stand in the middle of that medicine wheel and we respect ourselves and we love ourselves and we marry ourselves. We become the beloved. We become the most important.
Yeah, it's unconditional love, right? When we talk about that concept, it's like, can we love all of the light parts? Those are easy to love. Can we love all of the dark parts, right? Can we love those parts of us that made those choices? And it's not, it's like it's a fun one, like, oh, it's sacred marriage thing, but when we really get down to it, it's hard to love some of the choices we made, some of the things. And it doesn't mean I'm condoning them or we have to condone them, but it's just like, can I really understand that I was doing the best that I could and have absolute compassion? Because we can't shame ourselves into transformation. We try all the time. We think if we judge ourselves enough, we'll do something different. It doesn't necessarily work now, does it? And so this is loving ourselves into transformation. And when we can become our own beloved, then watch out, because then we grab intent by the horns. Okay. And so moving into.
So the last initiation, the seventh direction, is the above. So imagine you've become your own beloved. You've taken this journey through the medicine wheel and you've gotten your power back, because that's what happens. Your mind is not You're not spending your time and your unworthiness thinking about that. You've cleaned that up again. So you have this wholeness, you have this power, you have this love. And from that, we move into the above and we dream and we create those dreams from that love, honoring where we've been. We become alchemists, we become magicians, we become the law of attraction using the attraction that we are longing for. And we see this happen every single time those younger parts of ourselves are longing for our attention, calling for us. And when we give those younger parts of ourselves the attention, we alchemize into being powerful dreamers. People ask me all the time, like, how, guy, you dream, you like have so many beautiful dreams. My dreams are matched with my healing. When I'm struck, I can't, something's not happen, I go inside. What wants to die and be reborn? What needs my attention? So that is,
Yeah, it's dream mastery. It's mastery of intent. It's again, I say this lightly because again, this is not linear, but it's like it's the whole purpose. So many of us want to start at mastery of intent and not do all the other stuff, and it just, like I was talking about, it convolutes it. So it's ultimately where we find more connection, more love, more safety, more joy, all of those things. And so that is the Toltec medicine wheel of transformation, or the map in which we follow. And we do this a couple different ways. The full program that we do it two different ways. And one way is in Teotihuacan, Mexico, and that is over 2 1-week journeys. The first week is in June, and that's the first half of the wheel. And then the second week is in December, and that's the back half of the wheel. And each of these ways has its own pros and cons. It's nice to step out of our life and go somewhere for a week, and we stay at this dreaming house, which is beautiful. Like, it was designed, it was born from the Toltecs doing their work and their journeys in Mexico. And so we're using the wheel overlaid by this sacred temples and this, it's a big magnifier. I don't know how to say it. It's a sacred, holy land that activates us. And so it's a really beautiful way. Few people on here have been to Teo. Sherry, who's down here, is going to be guest teaching with us in Teotihuacan. And so that is one way that we do the full program. And then the second way that we do it, and this year, is in Northern California with Tina Green. You can see Tina Green and myself. And this is different in that it's over 4 long weekends through the course of the year, and come together on Thursday night through Sunday. And then both of these have classes and Zooms in between. And so they become a whole program. The one that's over a year is like a 10-month to a year-long program, just depending on how the weekends fall. And what happens is you get really tight, both of these ways, you get really tight to your community. And so that becomes a big piece of it, is the connection, the thing. The Dallas group is like, they all play together, they hang out together, they become a family. And so our last year we did it in Dallas. So just speaking into that. And when you can it's a closed group, the one that's in Northern California. So once we start, it's the same group. And so you can go to a weekend workshop, and the beginning of that is like you're forming and you're norming, like is this safe? Are these people safe? There's like a whole thing that happens. And so then you get to the depth of the work. Well, then when we come back the next weekend, next time we come together, you don't have to do that again. And people just drop right in. And so the work gets deeper and deeper. Same thing with Teo. After you've been, we come back the next time, you drop right in. Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to say was really important for us was because it's so profoundly deep and connective. that when we depart from whether it's a weekend in Northern California or in Teo, we will gather, whoever that community is, once a month for a group counseling. And you will also be invited to do an online breath work. And this is a way to continue to pull that thread and stay connected in that community. Because that's, for many of us, what we didn't have was that safety to allow these parts of ourselves to step forward and to be revealed. And so that's a really big part of it. It's not just like if you signed up for the Wheel in Teo, it is a 6 to 9 month journey. And you are in it with your group. And that really does make that so powerful. Same thing with Northern
Well, and
California.
both of our groups are limited to 12 people max, right? And the reason we do that is it's really important that there's an intimacy, that you have connection to Steph and I and the teachers, or Tina and I. You know, bigger things are bigger things, and that's fine. And we do some bigger stuff, but the wheel is so important. It's so deep, it's so tender, that it's really important that it's a small container. And so both of those, which also leads me to the other way in which in the last few years we have done the wheel. And it's really like it's become its own thing in that it's just a magical experience. And it's via Zoom, and it's over 8 weeks, 2 hours every Monday night. And each week we look at a different direction, and we send people off to do a ritual on your own, or some kind of initiation on your own. And it's, we did it because people, what is the wheel? What is the wheel? And of course, it's not necessarily always possible to go to Mexico for 2 weeks or commit to a year, and so we thought, well, we'll do a taste of the wheel. And it's really become, it's not our full wheel, but it's really become this magical thing. And it's been a great way for even people that are in the wheel, are doing the online wheel, to just stay in the medicine in a deeper way. And so it's also a way that you're like, well, I want to see how this works with Jeremy and Stephanie, and I've just met them. And so it's a way to really kind of first come in. And how we do that too with the online wheel is, the online wheel is in of itself $499 for the 8 weeks. But if you do the wheel, the full wheel, or have done the full wheel, it's $250, right? So it's a discounted for that, and will continue to be that price if you've done the full wheel. And so we have people that are coming back for the third time, just
Right.
because it's a great way to stay in the medicine. And the
really
wheel is not something you do once and done, I mean, unfortunately, this work is not like that.
I say fortunately,
Or
because
fortunately,
I'm excited. If you knew me 5 years ago, you would be like, you're a different person. My ex-husband is like, I don't recognize you. I have shifted so much. I've come into myself, into my heart, into my innocence, into my awareness, into my warrior, all that, because I keep stalking those places where I was like, ah, oh, that hurt when she said that. What is that about? Right?
and so those are the 3 kind of entry points. The one thing I will say, that is called Toltec Medicine Wheel of Transformation and Training. And so Freedom Folk and Soul is not only, this place where we can come and do our own work, but we also are, it's a training. And so kind of our pathways, one is to become an ordained minister through Freedom Folk and Soul. And the way to do that is you do the core program, which is this, the Toltec Medicine Wheel of Transformation, not the online version, sorry, but the full. And then you can either come through a second time as an apprentice, right? And that's when you're an apprentice, we meet a day early. We, teach you how to hold a container. We begin to teach you how to do breath work and work with people and body work and all of that. And even people that don't want to be teachers come through as apprentices, and it just takes it to the whole next level. And that at the end of that, you would be ordained as a minister of the healing arts. Then, if you really wanted to go on to get a certificate of transformational facilitator of the healing arts certificate with personal freedom coach, and we're adding sacred journey breathwork facilitator, you would come to our facilitator skills. But the other way to get become an ordained minister is to do the core program, or like Katie's done it the opposite way, and then to do our ministerial program, right? So basically you have to do the core wheel program and then come through the second time or do the ministerial program to be ordained.
And here's the
If you're
thing,
interested in that, we can
Yeah.
give you more information.
here's what happens almost every time.
Yeah.
People come for their own healing. They are awakened and so turned on and excited about what has happened and been illuminated and transformed, that there's this natural desire to hold that for someone else. And so people will come back through the second time as an apprentice, and they'll, as they're helping hold that experience, they're healing and becoming awakened and even more empowered and transformed. Because really, it's like me, it's like I can feel a motherless child across the room, right? Because that was my sacred ache. And I know how to minister to that almost as good or better than anyone. When we transform, we become wise, and we want to share that and be that. And so the people that come through they become ministers of the healing arts, so that they can hold sacred space with people in all different kinds of ways. And speaking from someone I'm a performer, this is the holy of the holy, to be present with people as they're coming back to life, reborn into who they were born to be. And I'm not doing it. I'm just holding sacred space, right? So this is a leadership training. We do feel very called that we are holding these sacred ways and trainings so that people can awaken to the medicine men and women that they are, priests and priestesses of the new earth. And however you are called to serve, whether it's in a courtroom or in a shaman room. No, mean it. Like, however, being awakened to your calling to serve as a mother, as a friend.
Yeah, well, and I just want to cut in because you don't necessarily have to want to teach like we do or bring teaching, but we had an apprentice come through this year that it was like so empowering for her to have to step in and lead a ritual. Like, she's not going to become a teacher necessarily, maybe eventually, but it was like so important, and it helped her to be more confident in her life, to step up, to say what she wants, and so, not to convolute it, but it's like, if you come through the first time, you will know, if it's right for you to come through a second time. But it is a leadership training at coming through the second time. And if it's, some of us have goals, like I want to be this in the world. And so there is a path to do that. I think one thing that me and Steph really do well, and we were just talking about this in the ministerial training, is when you come through as an apprentice or whatever, it's experiential. We're like, okay, here's the reins. You get to learn what it's like to really lead and hold that container. And we can go learn something in a book, right? And this is one of our people said, but when you actually do it is the whole nother ball game, And so I know we're up, coming up on an hour, and I appreciate y'all's patience, and it's a lot of information. I do want to acknowledge Tina Green, who's going to be teaching the Northern California Wheel, who has come through our program, everything that we've done. She's master apprenticed, and she will be stepping into co-leading with me this year in Northern California. I want to acknowledge her. Maybe you could say something in a second. I want to acknowledge Sherry, who's came through all of our programs many years ago, who is, our soul sister master teacher in her own right, is going to be a teacher in Teo this year.
Yes.
And I don't know, I'm assuming Mary Rose is there or not there.
Mary Rose Kent is in Denton, and she
Yeah.
is master apprenticed in Texas and has stepping forward this next year to co-lead the wheel.
In
And
Dallas
so we
in the
want to
fall.
honor her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we want to say, I know, just a sidebar, that Sherry Phillips Guzman, who's coming from California, she was my healer teacher that held me as I started this path, and has then worked with us. And again, she is going to be our guest facilitator. We're honored to have her work with us and hold this container in Teotihuacan in June and December. So we want to hear from y'all. We do want to turn it over for Tina. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to hear from Tina briefly. You know, Tina has been an integral part of Freedom Folk and Soul. Not only is she holding the wheel, but she's been helped us so much this last year, kind of take everything to the next level in terms of connection and communication. And we just got done teaching the 4 Agreements class, which was amazing. And she's done a bunch of her own stuff. She wrote a book this year. She's rocking it. And I say that for 2 reasons: to honor her, and you know, we we love to help facilitate a path, you know, to step into this work.
Well, and I want to say too, those of you who will get to know Tina, because she has taken her own healing to task. She's taken these programs to task, and she understands the medicine of the medicine wheel better than anyone I know besides us. And I really appreciate and value that you were incredibly well equipped to guide and hold this sacred container with people. So we're honored and grateful that you are, Tina. Would you like to share something?
Yeah, I'll try to condense it down. I wanted to share a little bit about my experience because I think it's important for you to hear from someone who has like actually gone through these programs. And you know, I came to uh the wheel having like checked off all the boxes of, you know, like kind of like Jeremy said, I've had some like really wonderful, powerful careers. I've made lots of money. I have a husband and 2 children, and I own a home. Like you would think, like, oh, Tina's got everything, right? But I was depressed. I was carrying a lot of shame, and I didn't really know I was depressed until I wasn't anymore. And you know, things were hairy in our marriage and in our household. And my husband had come to this work and working with Jeremy and Stephanie through Sherry, and I had seen like, wow, he's made a lot of really powerful changes, and it was really amazing to witness from my perspective. And so I decided to step in at a point where I was at that crossroad, you know, and what I thought I was going to take on in that first time. I actually went to Teotihuacan because it didn't exist here in Northern California. And I thought I was going to take on body shame, that I really have felt that my whole life. I've done workshop after workshop after workshop trying to like get over this thing that's holding me back. Like I was trained as a life coach. I was like, going to therapy, like doing all this stuff, but I just could never like break through it. And I came down to Teotihuacan to take on my body shame. And I just, you know, found myself, on that first day that we kind of started. We had our opening circle, and then we started, and we were kind of sent out to come up with 5 rocks that, walk around in the location we were at and come up with 5 rocks that represented 5 agreements that we had for ourselves. And I was just like, in putting the attention on it, I just couldn't believe how I talked about myself and how I thought about myself, I just was like, what? I can't believe this. So I said, my agreements were my body is ugly, my body is undesirable, I'm ashamed of my body, I give my power to men, and I'm not enough. Those were my initial 5 agreements. And I spoke them out loud in front of people. Like, these are things I've never said in front of other people. So I was witnessed, I spoke them out loud, and I took them to task with every ceremony we did, every teaching, every inquiry. Like, I just kept bringing them to task. And really, my goal ended up being not, I want to get rid of body shame. My goal ended up being, I want to love myself. And so I went through that week and took this all to task and did things that I never, like, I have no idea, I never understood them. Like, I communed with my ancestors. I did, like, I had all these amazing, like, powerful mystical experiences that helped me move things out. And I expressed a lot of emotion, and I learned so much about myself. I learned how codependent I was. I learned how much I minimized and denied things, major, major things that happened during my childhood. And, and I felt it and I honored it. Like, Steph says, I felt it and I honored it and I moved through it. I and by the end of that 1 week, I loved myself, right? I truly did. Like, for months, I was on a high. Like, I can't believe I feel so different. I could do anything. Nothing is stopping me. And I was just like so excited. And then I decided, there's also the second half, right? I immediately decided, like Jeremy was saying, that I wanted to be an apprentice. Like, I wanted to dig deep into this. This was like what I've been looking for, all the work I've been doing for decades. This is what I've been looking for. And now to bring it to a quick close, because I know we're running out of time, but I continued to go back and I apprenticed and master apprenticed, and I went to Teotihuacan 8 times in 2 years. And in those times, I took on my fear. I took on using my voice. I took on being seen, learning to receive love. I recovered my spirituality. Like, I recovered my spirituality. That may even be like the biggest thing that happened through this, you know? So, and in the process, just learning and growing, I became passionate about bringing this to other people. And really, like, what's key to me and what I'm passionate about is helping people learn to love themselves. That's the bottom line for me, because I feel like when that happens, everything changes, like everything. It's just amazing. Like Jeremy said, I don't know how you said it. You said you didn't say taking the bull by the horns. You
By
said
the
something
horns.
like it that, yeah. Okay.
Intent by the horns, yeah.
Like, so to me, like, I've just become so passionate about this. Like, this program is, every time, and I've also done it 3 times online, and every time I'm peeling off another layer and I'm getting more freedom. And it's not like it's fun and easy. It can be fun. But like every time there's grief, it's hard. It's hard work, but it's so worth it to get to that freedom. And like, I feel like now I'm in my mid 50s, and I started this when I was in my early 50s. And I feel like, a different person, because I've really immersed myself in this. And so um, I think that's what I wanted to share about it. I could go on and on and on and on and tell you so many stories, so many, but like we only have a certain amount of time. So for those of you that are doing the wheel in Northern California, you'll hear a lot of the stories, definitely. Yeah. So there you go. And one of the biggest things that I learned from Jeremy and Stephanie as a teacher, and I just want to say this, is that what stood out to me over all the other teachers I've had in my life, and I've had many, is the loving, safe container that they hold. And that is something that I've really taken on in my teaching as well, because it just, if you feel safe and you feel that love, um, you're gonna you're gonna become vulnerable and you're gonna allow things to move. And for me, teachers that I had in the past, well, they were good teachers and I learned so much from them. Like it was like at an arm's distance, and it just didn't feel loving, and it didn't feel necessarily safe, like it felt safe to a certain extent, but not to really go for it. Um, so that's, a big thing about the wheel. And if you're doing it with Jeremy and Stephanie and Teo, or me and Jeremy in Northern California, or all three of us online, it's just it's something that is there and that we all believe really deeply is probably the most important piece, you know?
Thank you so
So,
much,
Thank
Tina.
yeah.
We would love to just give Sherry a moment to share,
I know it's late,
it's
y'all, but
late, but we're
please.
excited, because she's a part of our team in Teotihuacan. So Sherry, please share a few words with us.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I was late getting on here. I'm a new mom to an almost 8-month-old. And yeah, so I've known Stephanie and Jeremy for years. And like they said, I did a lot of this work a while back. I haven't actually gotten to go to Teotihuacan in 5 years. And for me, this process, and I'm excited because I'm going into it again with the heart of a student. Like I'm learning. I get to watch and see how the medicine develops, and you guys continue to curate and create new ways for transformation. And so I'm excited. I'm coming back into the wheel from, yes, I'll be there as a co-facilitator and an apprentice, but also I can't wait to learn again and to be a witness to everyone's transformation. Like I've been telling people, I've never met anyone that regrets on any level leaping into this work. And if you feel the calling on your heart, it's there for a reason. It's there for a reason. And this is, I really love what you said, Tina, because I will second that. The safety of the container, the love at which this is approached. It's like, I've had a lot of teachers as well, and it's like the teachers here and the students are here. And with this group, with this awesome group of yummy people, we are eye to eye. It is like I'm here, you're here. How can we elevate together? And so I don't know. I've been in the healing arts since I was born, pretty much. I'm 55 now, and I'm really excited to. I've come through a few years here of just more traumatic loss, and this medicine, the core of this medicine, has gotten me through. And I'm really excited for everyone that's on this call. If you're on the fence about it, or if you've signed up and you're nervous, or I'm really excited for you and for all of us, because this program specifically will change you. It will change you. It will allow you to grow in ways that you can't even see, you can't fathom. And so I'll just keep it at that. I'm excited to continue to get to work with Stephanie and Jeremy and Tina. And, I'm excited for where this year is going to take all of us, and hope we get to meet all of you. I'm on my phone, so I can't see everybody, but
Share. Well, you guys, if y'all have any questions about the wheel, don't hesitate. We will absolutely take a call. If you're wondering about this, Nateo or Northern California, should jump online Any
or the
questions?
Dallas is gonna happen in the fall, so we don't have dates yet.
You can
but-
check out, also follow us online at freedomfolkandsoul.org. And I think the last thing I really want to say is like I respect each of you. And, you know, you have my commitment if you choose to work with us in any way that, you know, we've been taught. And the way we teach is we will hold your faith only long enough to give it back to you. We want you to become empowered in your own love, even beyond what we can possibly imagine. Your soul knows the way, your heart knows the way. And we're just here to guide and hold while you awaken and become who really you were called to be, right? So we're going to stay around here for just a second. If y'all have any questions.
I'm gonna pause to end the recording, but and if you have to, I know we're kind of way over an hour.